Data Center 4.0, the future of the digital ecosystem. In this podcast series from DigitalCentre, data center leader, expert and APAC-based marketeer Omer Wilson will be in conversation with technology and industry experts on the future of the data center and the wider ecosystem. Today's tech-fueled transformation era is putting traditional data centers under unprecedented pressure. This pressure is coming from businesses, users and consumers from every physical, virtual and cloud-centric angle. What does the future hold for the data center? Welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the next in our series of Data Center 4.0 podcasts brought to you by DigitalCentre along with our steering committee members. Today I'm really excited to be joined by another key member of our steering committee at DigitalCentre, Epsilon, and specifically Chad from that organization, their marketing director, who really we're going to have a discussion today around interconnecting data centers, how the future looks in terms of that approach from a software-defined perspective, and obviously, again, everything today goes back to the cloud. So how that ecosystem and cloud access and interconnection is playing out from a network perspective, which is really valuable and essential, clearly. So with that, Chad, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me here today, Omer. Glad to be part of this.
Good to have you. I guess in the current state of play, a lot of people at home with time to listen to more and read more. So hopefully we'll feed in a new podcast option for people to have a listen to.
Brilliant. Looking forward to having a discussion.
Sounds good. Do you want to maybe start, Chad, by introducing yourself and also Epsilon, just for maybe some of the listeners that may not be close to your organization, just at a high level, what you actually do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Chad Kinlay. I look after the marketing within Epsilon. So Epsilon is a network as a service provider. So we've been operating for 15 years, started off in the traditional carrier space as a voice internet provider and gradually evolved into a network fabric interconnecting data centers, clouds, internet exchanges for a multiple customer set from traditional carriers all the way up to enterprises.
Excellent. Sounds good. And your the organization-wise, obviously it's global, but is it a European, US organization? And obviously you're covering APAC. What sort of APAC spread do you guys have as well?
Yeah, so we are a global organization. So we start off in Europe. So we're founded there in 2003. Quickly built a network footprint, pan-European network footprint. And then we branched out into APAC in around 2009. So our APAC footprint stretches all the way from down Australia, for where I am at the moment, up to Japan, with a dense metro in places like Hong Kong, Singapore. But we do have a network footprint that covers the US, most of the internet hubs there. So we've progressively wrapped ourselves around the world over the years as we've got more and more international requirements.
Excellent. Yeah, no, as an organization from a digital realty perspective, we know your organization very well, and obviously one of the leaders in the industry from a networking perspective. Great intro, Chad. Thank you very much. So let's tee up with the first question I had. Can you give the listeners a feel of the current state of play in the data center interconnect market? What do we see today? What's the shape and breadth and key developments happening as of now in, I guess, Asia, but also globally?
Yeah, I think we're all stuck inside at the moment, and we're understanding that our our connection to our family and friends in the outside world, is through, the connectivity, largely internet. But more than ever, it's evident that the interconnection and connectivity, this world economy is growing. It's becoming a necessity, and that's driving all the data center interconnections and the apps, the platforms, the cloud. It's all living in the data centers. And I think the interconnect between these data centers is really just the plumbing that is powering this digital economy. And the interconnection is not only growing, but it's really serving most of the the apps and the applications and the services that we're consuming either on a business or consumer level. So it's a lifeblood, and certainly for the foreseeable future, it's not going to be changing. It's going to become even more important.
Definitely agree with that. And from a data center perspective, it's that interconnection that's becoming key now. And you're right, in this current climate, it's even more critical. So a little bit building on that one, and I guess the current. It'll be great to get your view from your side of the industry, what you're seeing, and I can add a little bit from us in terms of data center and cloud consumption. But what are the challenges in traditional data center interconnect ecosystems, and a little bit are those challenges being really defined a bit more now in the current climate in terms of obviously a huge spike across the board in usage and demand, but what are some of the challenges you guys are seeing?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge of the industry as a whole. I think the network layout, the connectivity piece, is catching up to the cloud models or the applications that they've been serving. So we're seeing large spikes in demand, cloud usage. We're on Teams. The need for enterprises to make sure that their business continuity plans are running fluidly. So that these demands are becoming very dynamic, and I think that's mapped also back to the cloud models by where you can spin up virtual servers as and when needed. There's ability for very small operators to get into market in a matter of weeks. The infrastructure from a I guess ISP is now limited, but the connectivity piece is slow to map to that business model. And certainly the idea of stitching together multiple service providers with back-to-back SLAs with 24-month contract terms or 12-month contract terms doesn't really map to a company that's needing disaster recovery for 2 days of a high bandwidth volume, or peaks in demand traffic based on certain events that are happening market-wide. So that has been a weak link in the digitalization aspect of the broader economy. And I think how we're seeing is that limitation and challenge is born in new breed operators and new models to adapt to it. When it comes down to this COVID situation, it really has shown how important agile, adaptable, and scalable connectivity is. There's a range of SaaS and UCaaS providers that need to scale up between data centers to cope with the demand that they're seeing, and that's really revealing how critical this DCI is in this ITC ecosystem. So I think what we're seeing now is the evolution of the network to become simple and seamless, really mapping back to those cloud infrastructures, supporting the applications they're serving. So the challenge is there, especially for maybe larger telcos or service providers with legacy assets, to digitalize and allow the accessibility of the connective infrastructure based on an on-demand model. But certainly as we advance as a digital economy, that will have to be in place to support the changing and dynamic markets of data.
Got it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I guess a bit of a follow-on to that, because of the way technology is being consumed now, clearly cloud-centric ecosystems and where we're going in terms of cloud access and interconnection is pretty key. Any thoughts on that? I mean, clearly from our perspective, that's been a trend in terms of data center growth that's been happening for a number of years. Clearly, the cloud growth globally, but especially in Asia, I'm sure you're seeing that as well. But it'd be great to get your view in terms of where you see that market going, especially around cloud access and interconnecting between multiple clouds, which seems to be where everything's going.
Yeah, and I saw a stat, and not to regurgitate stats, but this is it depicts this quite clearly. Is that Gartner was saying that the cloud is influencing $1 trillion of IT spend, which has a direct influence on the data center interconnection, right? So the ecosystems have to be flexible, fluid, to support these cloud services. Otherwise, you have these cloud-based applications that are mismatched with the infrastructure supporting them. So the cloud is directly impacting this, and I think the ideal scenario is that the ecosystem has the freedom to grow where the demand is and to be continually optimized. So the cloud applications that the businesses that have been serving is not limited. So the cloud is here to stay, and certainly in certain markets it's more advanced. If you look at North America, you would say it's probably more a mature region. That'd be focusing on the digitalization of industries, and I think APAC, although similar sort of a CAGR growth, is looking at IT services growth and certainly forecast to outpace other regions in regards to cloud adoption. So the impact is there. It's from an enterprise point of view, it's becoming critical in their IT, WANs and infrastructure, and certainly the interconnection, for the data centers is going to be key to making sure that as these IT stacks evolve, that they don't really fall over, right?
Got it. Makes sense. And I think that's exactly where it's going. And in terms of, if we focus in a little bit on Asia, again, from our perspective, give a bit of color and maybe be great to get your views on that. It's one, obviously the speed of growth is quite phenomenal in terms of the cloud providers growing pretty much everywhere and at rapid speeds. I guess that's similar across the world, but I guess it's the sizes we're seeing in terms of deployments, very interesting, and also the multiple markets they're getting into. How do you find from a cloud access and interconnection perspective within APAC, it's varying for yourselves maybe from Europe or North America?
Yeah, no, it's certainly it's evolved from a revenue perspective of that particular product set that we offer. I think the customer base that we have acquired over the years are either cloud native or enterprises that are got vast majority of their IT stack within it. So the securing up of that connectivity link to ensure that the business applications are running is clear demand that's growing. You're seeing other network service companies exponentially growing off the back of that. And certainly within APAC, I think the business model of them using potentially medium-sized operators like ourselves is a little bit more forthright than maybe some more established regions and such as North America. So as you say, Omar, from our side, it's mapping back to all the analysts and all the predictions from a growth point of view, and certainly a key piece of our strategic direction of supporting that.
And in terms of that growth for the future, clearly that trend's only be going one way, exponential from a cloud perspective and usage perspective. And I think, as we discussed at the start, this current climate, however long it lasts, is really driving those trends upwards in terms of digital consumption. Where do you see from an interconnect and cloud access and ecosystem perspective, especially from a software-defined view, I guess, which you guys are, very, very adept in delivering and planning for? What sort of new technologies are you seeing? And any one of those that you're looking at, you as a company feel there's a potential to, for real disruption on the horizon even?
Yeah, look, I think there's probably two parts to this. I think there's disruption in, I guess, the business and consumer worlds of technologies that's certainly going to make a imprint on, data volumes. And, I think not to go into all the specific versions, but we can see 5G, in the last mile, these smart spaces, this growing trend over the years to use, the merging of physical and digital environments, that I think will exponentially grow in the coming years and cause a need for intensive big data and bandwidth pipes to support it. But then I think from a service provider perspective, there's an opportunity and a trend through API interoperability between networks, by where it doesn't really matter which specific network provider you're transiting on, but it's consume the connectivity as a commodity through the application on service. So that would mean really backing back-to-back in services through an orchestration layer. So I think that in itself will see a stitching of network islands across the world, and change the way people procure services, and really embedding the connectivity into either the platforms or the technologies that are consuming it. So certainly there's two parts to it: the growth by the services and the end users and the endpoints that are driving it. But certainly an important trend around really taking what that first step of software-defined networking, of allowing people to program and consume network services, but really embedding that into the applications. So I think that will certainly be a trend that increases over the next 3 to 5 years.
Got it. And do you think that would those changes will happen across geographies, or do you think it's going to be accelerated in APAC compared to others?
I think it will naturally be regionally defined. So, I guess an uptake perspective. I know from our point of view, we've done some integrations with Chinese operator to allow the transfer of services between regions of China and the rest of APAC over our network. But certainly as requirements become more global, I think it will naturally evolve to a global need. And when we will understand when it comes to connectivity, it's certainly not entirely limited to a region or a specific country. The need for breakout services is always going to be there. And I think that will see the the stitching, and especially the interconnecting or the federating of networks on a broader geographical basis to become a global stitched federation, for a better word. We'll be there. So yeah, I think it will start regionally, but spread globally very quickly.
Got it. And I think we completely agree with that from our perspective, and our integration and reliance on the network and what you yourselves provide is becoming absolutely critical, especially in this multi-cloud world and multi-cloud access. What I guess as we approach the last sort of 5 to 10 minutes of the discussion, Anything specific from an Epsilon perspective that you'd like to comment on in terms of your own product map? Anything interesting that ties into where you see the industry going and what you guys yourselves are focusing on?
Yeah, I think from our side is that we've spent a lot of resources and time in orchestrating our backbone. So when it comes into the data center interconnection, the access of clouds and endpoints such as internet exchanges over private network infrastructure, I think we've achieved that. But providing a full end-to-end solution is important. You don't want to a multinational enterprise that's digitalizing, that has multiple cloud deployments in multiple clouds in multiple regions, is not going to want to be limited to the interconnection between data centers. They will want to prem or to edge devices. And I think the stitching of a full end-to-end solution in a single orchestrated way, and embedding that application layer that could be consumed through APIs. I think that's the step that we're trying to take, and it's certainly something that requires a integration with a lot of different service providers, because no one can be the best at everything. And I think it's a matter of taking the best pieces of what other providers are doing and embedding that service into our stack, so the customers that we have can consume it. So I think that whole end-to-end solution is going to become very important. Certainly something we're endeavoring from a resource point of view is to achieve. So I think the multi-lane of multifaceted IT demands and services is it's changing the way we serve our customers. I think certainly across different industries, there is a need for verticalization. The idea that we're going to see growing numbers of applications and platforms and technologies, but they will be geared to solving very specific challenges within either enterprise vertical segments or otherwise. So there might be managed service providers that go deep into a specific hospitality area, and then brings the network and the data center infrastructure together. That's super exciting, and I think that verticalization, specialization is where we want to be able to support, and the only way you can support that is to really make the connectivity and the network layer as easily consumed and adapted to the business models of these digitalized ecosystems. So a lot of it's aspirational, but there's a detailed roadmap behind that to support that aspiration. But certainly, it's the network piece needs to catch up, and we endeavour to do our best to make sure it does.
Great outline, great summary. Not much to add from my side. I think it was really good to get a feel from your world, which we can attest from a data center perspective, the importance of it, as mentioned at the start. It's always been the case, I guess, that islands of compute are nothing without the connectivity in and out of them. But as we move more and more to this multi-cloud, hybrid cloud world, not just the connectivity between campuses, but inter-region and intra-region connectivity is becoming so key, as you said. So the developments in this space are going to be absolutely critical. Nothing really to add from my side, apart from to say, Chad, thanks so much for your time. I know it's a unique time for all of us, and we appreciate you providing content that we can hopefully put out there and probably add to people's busy reading lists and listening lists at the moment of podcasts. No, happy to be a part. I appreciate the invite, and it is certainly interesting times, and I think from our side, it's also rewarding to be in
I guess, the digital infrastructure connectivity space industry that's supporting a lot of people, families, and countries. Stay connected and run and push through these challenging times. So yeah, no, I appreciate you invited. I hope for listeners I offered some sort of insights. I wish everyone stays safe.
Thanks a lot, Chad. Likewise, so send our best to you and the team. Thanks everyone for listening. Please do check out the page for Epsilon on DigitalCentre. The steering committee page has a lot of great content and downloadable content for them, and obviously all the important product suites and solutions they do offer to the industry. Also, please keep a lookout via the mailers on social media and also online at digitalcentre.technology for the next in our series of these webinars. We hope you're enjoying them. Please do share your feedback for any topics or other content that you'd like to hear about. Please stay safe, stay well, and thanks for listening.